being educated, we're not, things are bad for the entire country. Now, if they do not want to admit that, then we have an even bigger problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because when and Eon, you are an expert on this stuff. When blacks were getting lynched repeatedly over and over again in the South, it was because the country was in this tense, very anxious place, and they were taking it out on blacks.
partially, economic anxiety is always a big part, but a lot of times it was like specifically because like someone in the black community was doing too well. Like if you had a successful business and like the poor white folks were suffering during an economic recession, then you better watch out, because why are you walking around with that clean suit? Like what are you doing?
How could you be above me?
Taking
Right.
my like that's why I don't have my store, because you took
Right.
that opportunity
Right.
from me. You're taking
Yes.
my money.
Yeah.
So a lot of them, that's why they
Mhm.
burned down Tulsa. And I mean, that's why they rioted in the Capitol, because Georgia, I think that the fact that that the Senate went Democratic on to compound everything else, because the news that Ossoff won
Yeah.
was that morning, or like was it confirmed that he won
Yeah.
was that morning,
Mhm.
and so it's like, okay, you lost, like you just lost every, you lose, it's over. It's over for years.
But here's what I want to know.
Now you don't even have
okay? You guys are
Congress.
all on social media, and you understand this better than I do. Now, I know that Mark Zuckerberg has a handle on dissent, and
He
he
sucks.
shuts down.
So Twitter,
You know,
Twitter finally.
How come they didn't pick up on, because
Well,
these people had to
right,
meet,
so-
Well,
right? They
right.
had to get together.
Well,
They
that's
had
what they're
to-
doing now. The
How come
FBI 's-
they did not?
They're social
Okay.
media, not the Gestapo.
So number
No,
one,
but there's certain
no, but they
platforms.
were talking about using
They openly
to
use
bring-
the platforms to
Yes,
coordinate.
Yes.
there is definitely
Yes.
illegal stuff going on. I mean, with stuff that now could be looked at as evidence for crimes, even if maybe it wasn't illegal before. So.
Listen, then they
Before-
shut.
And
They
that's
shut
the-
down.
No,
the
my
president.
point is,
Twitter,
well,
Twitter
they,
shut him
they,
off finally.
they shut down his personal account that he used during the presidency.
Okay.
But that's important. That's what people follow.
But they.
Yeah.
That's
No,
why
no,
he's
no. I'm
got
just
the
saying that. I'm just
Facebook-
saying that's the
Facebook's
He's got 80 million followers
Facebook
on that account.
deactivated his
Yeah.
account, all
Right.
like until he's out of office. But it's like, okay, but it's all the little splinter groups, like all those
That's what
culty
I'm-
groups that are using it to organize. They use Parler a lot
Yeah.
specifically for this, and Parler,
I hear
the
it's
whole
terrible.
thing was that Parler is the like flattener for free speech or free expression or
Yeah,
something.
whatever. they
And
call
so
it.
now someone's conservative when they're on, you go on
Yeah,
Twitter
you-
and they don't have any recent posts, they just have their Parler tag. And so you
So
click
Parler is part of Twitter.
No, it's a
Parler
separate.
is
Oh,
a
separate.
conservative
Oh.
like company that's taking advantage of the fact that like Twitter and all these social media groups are getting,
All these fake news.
they're getting like criticized
and
for not
censored.
clamping down on this, but these folks are like, oh, it's our freedom of
Well,
speech.
we're cool
now
with
they're
it.
going to Parler, and Parler's committed to letting them say whatever the hell they want
I
and
hear
protecting
Parler's-
their right to say it.
Yeah, technically, it's very hard to use, and it's not that good of a.
No.
But my thing is,
Look at that.
I've read. In fact, the Times had a big expose on Zuckerberg just clamping down on people's use of the word
I-
black,
I
white
said that.
people.
I told you about
Oh,
that.
I
I
White
couldn't
people.
even close to
And-
mention stupidity.
people getting their
I'm gonna go with dumbass.
I've never been censored.
Their
so
account
I think part
shut
of it,
down.
Part of it is how active you are.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
If you're trolling people all the time,
But-
always commenting, always getting
These
things.
these people, if they knew that they were organizing this sort of a thing, how come they did not, get in the way of it?
So it's terrible, but I think I have to see what information Facebook had access to. But the bright side of it is that now, people use Facebook. That means that there's like a legal log of all their communications, and like if we actually take the right steps to prosecute them, it's going to be hard for them to hide anything. Anything they delete, Facebook already has.
That's fine.
Facebook's not Apple. They'll give information.
You think so?
Police use them all the time. to catch people all the time.
You know, I was just telling Danny that we're heading in the fascist direction, and we're heading there really fast. And I was talking to
Was
him.
that
When
before the
when
election?
did you say that?
I just said that last week. I remember I sent him the book, and he received it. so
We're
he
heading
called me.
away from the fascist direction.
That's why they're That's why they're rioting.
We heading.
Away from the
Well,
fascist.
We heading.
We're not
4
heading
years of fascism is what we just had.
Yeah,
no,
but
no,
it
no.
doesn't-
What
just be-
what we had just now in the White House, you don't think that's fascist?
No,
Mom.
I'm
That's what
saying
they say.
that is over.
It's not over.
It's not over, is what I'm saying.
But Mom, but the leadership that caused
Yeah,
that to
but
happen.
the leadership doesn't mean that it ends. Just
No,
because the
like-
leadership is gone.
Okay,
doesn't
so
mean-
no.
Trump winning a second term gives you the
Yes.
gives you
Yes.
the
No.
justice to
Yes.
say
I don't
that.
think so.
No.
don't
What
think
I
so.
was saying to no, Jeannie, no. Don't forget the Tea Party. Okay, this is started all of this stuff.
Yeah,
It
but the
didn't end-
Republicans lost both houses.
But this stuff didn't
Yes,
end
but it
with
doesn't
Obama
mean-
winning. It got
Yes.
worse.
Okay, wait, but Mom, the fascism is its climate. The longer Trump is in office, the more of a fascist he
Became.
tries
He
to
became,
be.
yes.
And so he as he
I'm talking about as a whole, as a nation.
Yeah.
so it's
I'm talking about the fact that more people voted for Trump this time than voted for him on his first attempt to become president. He had actually gotten more popular. And so the fact that he is no longer in the House, in the White House, doesn't mean that this is going to stop. It can slow down.
The policies will stop.
Yes, but we're not just talking about.
Everything that comes from him being in charge of the country will end.
Not,
Public opinion,
no.
public opinion,
not
public
that-
opinion
not
isn't
necessarily,
going.
because
Public
you can still
opinion
have
is
the
going to
governor,
change,
but you
but the
still have
administration is changing. And don't say Biden's a fascist next.
No.
You're talking
That's
about
not what I'm
the
saying at all.
governors.
No.
Governors can still create policies and
no, but they're not fascist. Sorry, go ahead.
who's not
Right,
fascist?
Go ahead.
Okay,
I think
do you-
Margaret understands what I'm saying.
you
In
look
that,
like Texas, Florida.
right.
Those are
Okay,
not.
but what makes them fascist per se, as opposed to like
Race.
ultra conservative, racist, amoral
Isn't
douchebags?
that towards the
I mean,
it?
fascism.
Okay, if they're supporting the
Fascism
policies
connected with
of the federal
economy,
government, that they're opening their
stealing
their
people's things.
they're saying that the ICE can come in and take over and police their immigration policies that they have.
That's pretty fascist.
Yeah, I mean,
But
it's okay.
But
here's the
if
thing,
if you
the
had
federal
to,
government has the supremacy clause gives the federal government authority to shut all of that shit down.
Yes, but it
So-
doesn't mean that they're still not trying to put
I'm
policies
talking.
out there that support that type of behavior. Because look at just think about how they reacted to COVID, right?
Exactly.
The East Coast, they were like,
Everybody
everybody shut down.
Exactly.
We're gonna put a mask on. Everything, fine. The minute it went down to the southern states, then it became like, oh no, we have a right of way here, or right of.
Yeah.
What's it called? And then we can't have it. And then the freaking governor, what is his name for Georgia, said that I didn't realize that it can be contagious if you can be positive and
Not pass right. Yeah.
and it was just like how Kemp.
asymptomatic
And it was just like, how could you possibly not realize this? If you're a person who's listening to all the news, right? Listening to all the policies that are coming
the
on,
briefings.
unless you're listening to Trump, who's just like drink bleach, and then you can be good with it. Come on, it's just
I-
like what?
I think Biden has to work very, very hard to reverse this opinions, these very, very conservative opinions that seem to be moving.
he can't do anything to change public opinion.
Okay.
He
well,
can change policies.
No,
and-
one
Yeah.
thing he can do is clamp down on all that fake conservative news stuff. Like opinions The truth is an objective.
No, people have been peddling myths in America for centuries.
Okay, but-
and that's never gonna stop.
But it's never been able to allow someone to gain this much
used to be some-
support from complete falsehood. Like,
This is the new normal. No one's gonna fix that.
that is something.
Well, then,
I'm not a big fan of freedom of speech personally.
You're not a big fan of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is a fundamental American value.
Okay, but we don't actually have it already. So I think
We don't actually have it already.
No.
We're
Schenck versus United States.
Yeah.
we're pretty close.
Okay, how many socialists and communists have been arrested in this country
Right.
for
But would it happen today?
saying that all the people in the
Would it
world
happen
need
But would it happen today?
To get what? To be arrested?
yeah, I think that
No.
we already censor people's speech all the time.
I don't think that'll happen today.
How are we censoring people's speech now?
Okay, so one woman spoke about how she got in relation to the riot that happened a day, 2 days ago, a day ago, and the Black Lives Matter protest that she happened to she was protesting Castile's murder, and she was arrested for inciting a riot,
Oh wow.
obstruction of justice, and I think disturbing the peace or something like that, because she was peacefully sitting down and refusing to move or something like that. So that's how your freedom of
Just like-
speech.
I was just looking at you like, were you in America this summer? How many people were arrested, beaten, killed even for nonviolent protests this year?
Yeah.
That's the First Amendment. That's freedom of speech. That's freedom.
Think of all the all
don't
the
have
people
it.
that were
So-
pushed to the ground by police officers just because they were saying. What
I
they,
wasn't think I
If
I
we're going
meant
to clamp down on it, we should clamp down on it in
I
a way
meant-
that's most destructive.
Well, I don't
Which
know about
is
that, but
Newsmax, Alex Jones, all Breitbart, 08,
No, I don't believe. I think conservatives need to coexist with liberal
That-
thought. I don't think they should.
No,
be climbed
but
down
these people,
upon.
that's my point though. They are hiding under this banner of conservatism, but they're actually not conservative. They're just making things, everything they
that's
say
the-
is a
well,
lie,
that's-
and it discredits our
Because-
entire system.
Well-
Democracy doesn't work when people think that
Because-
you're going to the basement molesting children,
that the
and those are your
reason.
leaders.
Well, this
we
is-
have to do something about
This is the whole problem with America's founding in the first place, because America's founding was not found on human rights; it was found on religious rights, right? So in order for
fallacy.
in order for them to say that they can
No.
do
Give the document.
no, but Anne said religious rights. She's not wrong.
Oh.
so the problem is that you're looking at people who are going to pervert religion in order for them to gain power. And the way for them to gain power is to say, okay, yes, you can say these things, but you have to be within this vein of what America is founded on. And that's where all these conservative people are then pushed along this whole rigmarole, and why they believe in these fallacies, because the fact that they can then say, okay, no, attached to my religion and attached to what the United States has been founded on, this is my right, and this is the reason why these things are not, why I can have the beliefs that I have are true, and the values of America, or the values of white people, is because the original thought for America was religious freedom, or religious rights, I should say.
Well,
The
One of
Pilgrims came for.
because the freedom of speech was also, the Zenger trial that was on Jeopardy. The Zenger trial is why it was the precedent, or whatever we were basing the freedom of the press on, and that was some guy who was publishing shit about the king, and they put him in jail for it, and the Zenger trial was like,
Yeah, but how long did that happen after the Pilgrims came here?
I don't know, it was like 16 or 1700 or something.
Yeah.
But that's when we were founding the country.
No, the country was being founded in the 1600s.
No, those were the
What are you
colonies.
saying?
The Pilgrims. Because that's what the
This
village.
country
No,
was
but this-
founded in 1776.
Our ideals were intentionally to distinguish us from Great Britain, so it's not the values of the colony.
1776 because of the first convention.
1776 is when the Americans
declared
won the war.
independence.
When they
Okay.
decla- no, I'm
we
sorry.
won the war in '83.
Sorry.
Come on, boy.
1776 is when the U.S. declared independence. Yeah.
Yeah, because celebrated on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not.
I'm lost.
I'm talking about when the Pilgrims first came over here.
Oh, but that was the British.
But the Pilgrims
But it
didn't have freedom of speech.
That's why the
They
Pilgrims-
had
Don't give
freedom
it a
of
religion. Did you know that?
Yeah, but their freedom of religion was actually the freedom to prevent anyone else from practicing any other religion in their colony.
Yeah.
Right, the Puritans.
Yes, but because they were the first ones here.
Their freedom of religion was because in England they didn't have freedom of
Yes,
religion.
but that was.
Yeah. But
Well, my point was that when you import that into the U.S., it's we made a point to distance ourselves from just being about religious freedom. We made sure that that right was based
Okay.
on protecting freedom of the press, and there was the Zenger trial, and then freedom of religion because of the way Puritans were treated, and in fact, I think Maryland was a colony that was like, it was like, what's the word? It was a proprietary colony, like that was founded by Catholics or something, and it was like the only place the Catholics were in the colonies in the early days or something. And so there were different religions as opposed to England where that wasn't okay. And then you had the freedom of assembly. I don't remember why we had that. But we don't have those things. So I think if we're not going to have them because of the propaganda that spread from the freedom of religion or freedom of press, then we should actually make some rules about like what counts as the truth. Like anything that is false patently needs to have like what Twitter's been doing. Like this claim has been disputed.
This is that
There should be a
that's like,
central
dude. That is
agency.
No.
that is Elf
You
would
can't do
Elf would
that.
call it fascism, but
You
it's
can't
not.
do that.
It's
It's the
it's
only way we're-
authoritarianism. It's
but-
But
authoritarianism.
the
That's-
only way that you can do that is through the courts.
Okay, but fascism is alive and well in this country right now because they said, oh, well, people are going to have access to all this information, but we can't stop them from doing that in this country. So what we're going to do is just create a completely new set of information that conflicts with this.
Are you
and
saying
we'll feed
Are you
that to
talking about
people.
Parlo?
No, I'm
Parler?
talking about
I-
all of the
I-
news
you
that
cannot-
Trump uses
you cannot-
to create his policy.
You cannot legislate the truth.
Yeah, but those things
You
existed
cannot
well before Trump
create an
decided to
authority
become-
on truth and say we have an impartial authority on truth,
I think
Yes.
and we are going to.
I believe that it has to
I
be
think-
done.
I think that
It
there's a
has to
limit.
be, you have
that
to
these-
come
these
as
cross.
close as possible as you can come to that.
This
there's
is
no
like
other
some
way.
sort of like liberal dictatorship.
No. Truth is truth. If you allow people
No,
to say
what I'm saying is fiction can't be criminalized.
Yeah.
yes,
Yes, fiction can be criminalized.
should.
Do you know
When
how
you're- when
do you know
you're-
how crazy you sound?
no, I'm saying
when you pass it off as
when you
as
pass it up.
nonfiction,
Okay, Jeannie,
No.
are you? Let's say okay. There are some white people who think that blacks are inferior, okay, and they believe in eugenics. Do you think that we should allow that line of thinking to persist? No.
I don't.
No. So if somebody is propagating that sort of information, right? Don't you think that there
I
should
don't
be some
think
sort of clamp
I don't
down
think
on
there's
that?
any I don't think
Labels.
that there's any I don't think that there's any successful way to prevent people from propagating false information.
labels.
People will always find a way to profess whatever they want to profess.
Okay,
You can't
well,
you can't dictate to people what they can and cannot speak.
All right, then we're done.
Then- no, no,
we're done.
Yeah,
We're done
if
for-
that's the case, then the Jews are dirty and
No,
and
okay,
the-
you guys
the blacks are
you
stupid,
guys have a
and
lot
you
less.
know what?
First of all, we've gotten this far.
No, but
The world is not going to come to an end because some people are lying. People have lied before. People have spread misinformation
What are you
before.
talking about, Jeannie?
this
the
is-
reason why we
lifetime-
got to this point is because this stuff has been allowed.
our in your lifetime,
because of
What
social
I'm saying
media.
is you cannot
Well,
you cannot fix a truth
about that.
watchman on everything
I'm
and say
with
I'm
you on
impartial.
this.
This is clearly coming from the left. No one else in the country is going to accept it.
I think I'm not saying that we need to
Because
just.
one some of the biggest crimes that ever happened was existed prior to social media existing, right? So then it's just like, and these were lies that were told about Jews or being scapegoats. It's like people are made to be scapegoats of other people's failures.
Social media has helped and it's hurt. It's definitely made it easier for these extremists to come together.
Yes,
of
definitely.
course, it's also made it easier for those people being victimized to get support.
Yeah,
right?
because you can
and
definitely
to put it out there.
You can
Right?
definitely find somebody who has like, I won't go to Breitbart per se, but
Right.
then I see this person over here in social media and like, oh yeah, I like what they're writing about, and it could be the same thing that Breitbart
Yeah,
is
of
spouting,
course,
but
of
it's just
course.
in a nicer and
Yeah.
more imagery
Yeah.
laden way that you can just say, oh yes, this is what I agree to.
I think social media just made it easier.
Yeah.
But I guess for both sides, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Because the same,
Um,
because I can imagine in an ultra conservative household, they're like, okay, do you see how these trans people are getting together on social
Right.
media,
Right.
and that's how they're getting, or how these blacks are getting together, and they're poisoning all this stuff, and how it just can be. It's just, I think, as we were just discussing that, it's just an easier way
But- But one side, they're not equal because the fascism is the thing that'll hurt us all, right? And yes, if you're gonna have, you need to have balance, but you know, fascism hurts everybody.
I'm against fascism, for the record.
Right?
I'm
Yeah.
against fascism, but I'm also against censorship.
The problem is that the tools that we would have to create to combat that, these tools at least, that we would use to combat fascism, could fall into the hands of a fascist in a democratic government, like what just
Yeah.
happened.
There's
And if
always
Trump
that
had what I'm
risk.
advocating for, then he'd really have power because he could shut down the actual truth and only pump
Which
his
he's
nonsense.
been attempting to do.
Right, but what I'm saying like would
Yeah.
allow the government to like stamp
Totally.
false labels
Totally.
on things.
And that's the thing. It's just that what Trump did was put a mouthpiece, or what's the thing, loudspeaker or whatever. He put a microphone, let's say, to all these little fractions, and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna put all you guys together, and then this is that's why. The reason why I think a lot of people didn't survive in his White House is because of the fact that he just shifted to wherever way that he wanted, and
Right.
if you no longer
Wherever the wind
served
blows.
you,
He didn't want to have any use for you
yes,
anymore.
I already have the people that I was trying to get from you. So
But
let's say, what's his name, Steve Bannon, right?
He didn't just give him a voice.
He gave
He
him
told-
legitimacy.
He also said to them, I'm not going to punish you,
Yeah,
okay? There's not going to be any penalty.
He damn
As
well
long as you stay in my corner,
yeah,
whatever you do is permissible.
yes,
And he did that. Not in all the words, of course,
yeah,
but he's done it in a number
he's
of
a great
ways.
dog whisperer, I gotta say.
yeah.
You
For
know?
someone who's not very subtle, he really knows how to say a lot with a little. Cause
Well, no, because he learned that through his,
Well,
his,
he does
his
have
mobster's
charisma.
ways.
He had that
Not
charisma.